But I can throw all the numbers around, and we can all throw numbers around, but really what matters are choices. That is what this debate is about. It's about choices, and it's about the people of Minnesota. And right now, if you are a senior citizen on a fixed income, or in the middle class, or a farmer, or a small business owner, you are paying 25% more of a percent of your income, 25% more of a percent of your income than a millionaire in the state of Minnesota. If you're a senior citizen, let me say that again, and hopefully the state of Minnesota understands this, that if you are a senior citizen on a fixed income, you're a farmer, you're a young family, small business owner, you're paying 25% more of a percent of your income in state and local taxes than the wealthiest Minnesotans. And Governor Dayton said that is not right, that is not fair, and he fixes that problem. His budget creates fairness, and that's going to say that, you know, if you're a senior citizen, you shouldn't have to pay more than a millionaire. If you're a farmer, you shouldn't have to pay more than a millionaire. If you're a small business owner, you shouldn't have to pay more than a millionaire. He creates fairness, and that's what this is all about. It's about choices. And when you look at the conference committee agreement that came out a couple days ago, we're looking at huge property tax increases on folks around this state. In fact, the projections are in just next year, property taxes will increase by over $350 million. And why do those property taxes have to increase by over $350 million? It's so that the Republican majority can prevent the wealthiest Minnesotans from paying their fair share. That's right. Why does a senior citizen on a fixed income trying to stay in their home that they've lived in there for 40 or 50 years and raised their family, why do they have to pay more in property taxes? So the Republican majority can prevent the wealthiest Minnesotans in this state from paying their fair share. That's the choice that's being made. Small business owners are going to pay more in property taxes. Farmers, young families will pay more in property taxes because the Republican majority wants to, at all costs, prevent the wealthiest Minnesotans from paying their fair share. Not a penny more. Not a penny more. The renter's credit, going to be cut $96 million a year. And there's been some changes to that, but the cuts are the same as it left the House. But a senior citizen making the median wage for a renter, about $20,000 in the metro area, is going to see a property tax increase of $256. $256. Why does that senior citizen have to pay $256 more dollars on the Republican majority conference report? It's because the Republican majority wants to prevent the wealthiest Minnesotans from paying one extra dime. If you're a non-senior citizen, non-disabled, if you're making $25,000 and you're a renter, you are going to see an increase in your taxes of $930. That's 3.7% of your income. 3.7% of your income we're willing to raise on a renter in order to make sure that the wealthiest Minnesotans don't pay their fair share. That's the choices that we have in this body. And I'm going to side with Governor Dayton, who has the right priorities and the right values and presents a fair plan that the state of Minnesota shares in. You know, Representative Linczewski had mentioned, and something that I don't understand why we're going there, but the market value homestead credit has been eliminated. And we can go through how that all works, but without anything happening, that raises property taxes, eliminating the market value homestead credit. Why in the world would we eliminate a cherished traditional program that values home ownership? Why would we eliminate that? Well, yes, I do know. Because a choice has been made to at all costs protect the wealthiest Minnesotans from paying their fair share. That's why it was eliminated. Members, the choices are very clear. You have Governor Dayton's plan, which invests in jobs, invests in our future, invests in education and health care and property tax relief. And you have the other side, the Republican majority plan that cuts about 30,000 jobs, kicks 120,000 people, Minnesotans, off health care, raises property taxes by at least $360 million next year, another $186 million on renters credit cuts in the next 2 years. Why? So the wealthiest Minnesotans don't have to pay their fair share. Members, that's not what Minnesota's values are all about. That is not the Minnesota that we know. And, you know, you're looking at feelings of the people of the state of Minnesota. They want a balanced approach. That's what they want, and they want to provide into the future so that we can afford and we can provide to the next generations what we've had. The final thing I want to comment on here is the compromise. I think most of us know how to play football. And I think most of us would agree that the 50-yard line is the middle ground. The 50-yard line is the point where no one has an advantage or a disadvantage. It's the 50-yard line. And yet, back on April 15th, I mean, we're trying to get this thing done. There's 6 days left. The governor has said, I'll meet you halfway, I'll compromise. No movement on the other side. But what's really interesting is that on April 15th, Senate Majority Leader Koch, with the Speaker at her side, and again it was mentioned yesterday, she said, we started at the 50-yard line with our budget proposal. We started at the 50-yard line. And yesterday I heard again, we started at the 50-yard line. Well, there's a couple things wrong with that. First of all, if you start at the 50-yard line, it means you're done compromising. You're done. But the other thing is, how did you get to the 50-yard line? You usually start about the 20. But I know in the House here, the Republicans, they threw a pass, they threw the budget downfield, and it fell incomplete. It fell about $1.2 billion short. And then it rolled to the 50-yard line, so they thought they could move up. You've got to execute. You have to work hard. You have to get your job done to get up to the 50-yard line. The governor's moving in that direction. He's compromising. But I don't know if you should have even started at the 20-yard line, because there was roughing the taxpayer along the way, which over $300 million in the next term. There was holding on businesses with property tax increases as they tried to move on. There was plenty of illegal motions against senior citizens and those with disabilities when you cut the renter's credit. So I don't even know if you should have started on the 20-yard line. But if the Republican majority was a football team, there'd be one silver lining in all of this. You'd get the first draft choice. Members, the governor not only has a plan that is based on the values of Minnesota, but he has also said he is willing to compromise. The people of Minnesota want us to compromise. The governor said he's going to meet you halfway. He's got a plan that actually cuts more than it brings in right now. And if you think, do you actually think that the Republican majority budget is going to pass? No. Governor's first proposal, I don't think he ever thought that would pass. So where are you going to compromise? And if you went to the 50-yard line right off the bat, you don't know how to play the game. So, members, I am going to vote for compromise. I am going to vote for investment in those priorities and values that Minnesotans cherish the most. I'm going to vote for fairness and a vote that can move Minnesota forward into the future. Members, please vote yes.